God disciplines those he loves. And he wants to lead us into truth. He wants to lead us into grace. He wants to lead us into righteousness. And he's willing to correct us, to rebuke us, to call us to conformity to Jesus, not conformity to the world. And sometimes that's a hard word, friend. Look at verses 8 through 11 of Revelation chapter 10. Then the voice that I heard from heaven spoke to me again, saying, "Go, take the scroll that is open in the hand of the angel who is standing on the sea and on the land." So I went to the angel and told him to give me the little scroll. And he said to me, take and eat it. It will make your stomach bitter, but in your mouth it will be sweet as honey. And I took the little scroll from the hand of the angel and ate it. It was sweet as honey in my mouth. But when I had eaten it, my stomach was made bitter. And I was told, you must again prophesy about many peoples and nations and languages and kings. The angel continues to speak to John, and John is now told to receive the scroll and take it and eat it. Now, this might be odd to you and me eating paper, but to that first century Jewish believer, they would pick their head up and go, I remember when that happened. Maybe you're familiar with this Old Testament prophet Ezekiel. It's Babylonian captivity. The Jews are in captivity, and Ezekiel is told he's commissioned to go to the house of Israel and to prophesy to them. And to commission him, he was told to take the scroll and eat it. Look at this in Ezekiel 2:8 to 3:3. But you, son of man, hear what I say to you. Be not rebellious like that rebellious house. Open your mouth and eat what I give you. And when I looked, behold, a hand was stretched out to me, and behold, a scroll of a book was in it. And he spread it before me, and it had writing on the front and on the back. And there were written on it words of lamentation and mourning and woe. Sounds kind of bitter, doesn't it? Lamentation and mourning and woe, judgment. Verse 3, and he said to me, son of man, eat whatever you find here. Eat this scroll and go speak to the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth and he gave me this scroll to eat. And he said to me, son of man, feed your belly with this scroll that I give you and fill your stomach with it. Then I ate it and it was in my mouth as sweet as honey. I want you to see the parallel here. I'm going to go Ezekiel, John for just a second. Ezekiel is tasked to go and prophesy to the house of Israel who are in Babylonian captivity, and he's given words to speak to them. He's called to eat the scroll and then go and speak. The Apostle John is renewed for the task at hand. He's given the word of the Lord to eat, and he's to prophesy to the nations the coming judgment. So prophesy to the house of Israel. Now, John, you prophesy to the nations. And this is fascinating to me. John lived his life following Jesus, being loved by Jesus. His life was transformed by love. He preached the message of love. I mean, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John. You look at his gospel, he talked about the beloved, and he's discipled pastors, and he's planted churches, and now his final task was to proclaim this judgment. He's poured out his life, and he's overwhelmed at what he's already seen. He's like, John, I'm not done with you yet. Back to Ezekiel, you see Ezekiel is told to eat the words of lamentation, mourning, and woe. Now to John, he's told that this scroll will be bitter in his stomach. It'll be like eating honey. And you're going to be bothered by it. In the summer of 2023, I was preaching at our Bel Air campus, and the Lord had given me a hard word. And by the time I was finished with my sermon, writing my sermon on Friday, I was like, oh, this is not going to be fun. And I felt the hand of the Lord on my left shoulder, like he was just pressing me down. And I felt that for 2 days. Just pressed down. Like I have no choice, but I have to speak. I will not be let up until I speak this word. I told my wife, it was like Saturday night as I was going through everything, I said, honey, I need you to pray for me. I'm about to make a lot of people mad. I opened my sermon with, I'm gonna offend every single one of you. And I got a few calls that week. And I said, I told you I was going to offend you. And I said, have you ever felt God put his hand on you and push you to the floor and that you won't be let up unless you speak that word? Friend, listen to me. I understand that offended you, but I warned you. It's not a pleasant experience. But sometimes the message is bitter. And sometimes it hurts. It hurts the prophet and it hurts the people. But God disciplines those he loves. As a father, the son he delights in. And he wants to lead us into truth. He wants to lead us into grace. He wants to lead us into righteousness. And he's willing to correct us, to rebuke us, to call us to conformity to Jesus, not conformity to the world. And sometimes that's a hard word, friend. So what does John do? Look at what he does. John 10 and 11, and I took the little scroll from the hand of the angel and ate it. It was sweet as honey in my mouth, but when I had eaten it, my stomach was made bitter. And I was told, you must again prophesy about many peoples and nations and languages and kings. And guess what? We have chapters 11 following. So what did John do? He obeyed. Because to obey is better than sacrifice. He obeyed the instruction of the Lord to ingest the word of the Lord and to then proclaim the word of the Lord. And there's no finer thing that you and I can do as followers of Jesus in the day and time in which we live, but to ingest the word of the Lord and to be obedient to the word of the Lord and to proclaim the word of the Lord to the lost and dying around us. Because if they are around for these judgments, it will be devastating. But it will be nothing compared to an eternal lake of fire. And you and I are God's plan A. And he has no plan B. So part of this is you and I being moved and renewed, you who follow Jesus. Part of this is you not storing up wealth in barns for when you want to retire. Part of this is going, how do I take my resource right now and deploy it so that the nations will be glad? How do I empower leaders with resource to take the gospel across the globe? How do we fund global missions? What is God doing for our city, right? I mean, if we really understand the message and we really understand how bitter the message gets, we're going to do something about it. But if we don't, hey, good word, preacher. We move on with our lives. Or, man, that guy, he really hacked me off today. Yeah. So what do we do? One, recognize divine authority, God's sovereign plan. He will bring judgment to a close. Two, be assured of its fulfillment. And three, commit to prophesy. Commit to proclaim. Commit to share. You have the greatest message of hope that the lost and dying world around you needs. And there's still time for rejoicing in heaven for lost sinners to repent. May we see the day, the season, and the time we're in and seize the day.